And how to pronounce your last name? Is it Limon or is it Lyman
Lim,
or
Limon,
Limon?
like
Okay.
Bacardi.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, yeah. Limon for us is in Spanish. It's lemon. So. What is up, everyone? It's Andrew Bermudez, co-founder and CEO of Digsy, the commercial real estate search engine that allows you to capture more commercial real estate leads. That's tenants and buyers by, just getting them to inquire on your properties, exposing them to Google and different parts of the internet as well. Today, I have a really awesome friend. His name is Jesse Limon, Lyman. It's kind of hard when you got Hispanic last names, right? But I'll let you introduce
Yep.
yourself and show us the right pronunciation, Jesse. But Jesse is with Marcus and Millichap in New York, right?
Yes.
And today I've really admire how active he is. He's, always announcing closed deals, and he's just got just a great personality. You wouldn't think it would be in a cutthroat environment like triple net sales. In talking with him, you'd think that he just, is just like a billionaire that just doesn't really work. It's almost like you own the real estate and you're just selling it for fun, but he's just a great personality. I'm really excited to have him on the pod today. But Jesse, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, first, thanks for having me. I really was looking forward to this all week. And so, yeah, I've been with Marcus and Millichap for 10 years, just over that. I started just after the 2008 crash in the Indianapolis office and worked out of that office for a few years and was transferred over to the Manhattan office where I'm still based out of. I've worked on shopping centers, industrial properties, offices. My focus is on net leased investments. And so recently sold industrial but a lot of retail. And we're really focused on exclusives. So representing the seller and getting them the best results. That's a little bit about me
That's
on the
awesome,
business
man.
side. Yep.
Yeah, and just for the audience, because we have both, property owners, investors, asset managers who listen to this and watch this podcast, but also we have, brokers as well. And, triple net in triple net investment sales is really competitive. So how do you go about generating new business, clients, accounts, et cetera? Like what do you credit that has helped you achieve the level of success that you currently have?
Well, it's a very cold call oriented business, but I would say that a lot of it is really branding myself earlier on. Prior to really finding my success, my niche, I was heavy on the social media. And so that has actually led to kind of where I'm at now, where earlier on we were creating our own content, driving around, doing drone videos ourselves, like me personally flying drones, doing property tours, 3D tours with, before it was cool. And that, gave me an idea as to what worked, what didn't work. And where we're at now is very tech focused. I use a lot of email blast kind of to narrow down who to call, but still, again, really driven on calling developers, calling owners directly, getting, just staying humble. It's the biggest thing is just, like exposing yourself to failure every day keeps you, I guess, in that mindset that, you just got to keep working, keep grinding.
And when you were saying about the drone videos and the 3D tours, that was part of the branding campaign, and you were using social media, you mentioned, to do that.
Yeah.
Now, were these properties that you were listing, or these were like just other properties in the market just to kind of get content out there?
That's a good question. So it started, they weren't listings. They weren't even, I was talking to the owners and they're like, well, we might sell this property. And so I started to map out all of these properties to where I could drive from New York down to Florida and then up to Indiana, where my family base is out of Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
So myself and my girlfriend, we were driving nationally for weeks. We'd be on, multiple week tours and go into properties that we really hadn't known if we would get the listing or not yet. We were meeting with the owners of the property at their home, and then go into their property on that trip. And then, once we got the listings, we were taking that content and then putting it on LinkedIn. And really, it was, a couple of years ago, I was able to get my first closing off of a LinkedIn video, which cemented my case. I was completely all in at that point.
Yeah. Did you ever go on, it's kind of funny. A lot of people use social media. Some brokers are super active on Twitter. There's, some brokers that are active on Instagram. There are brokers who are active on LinkedIn. Like, do you tend to spend time in one platform versus another?
Now, no. I mean, I do see a lot of activity off of Instagram, which I launched an Instagram. I guess it's been about 1.5 to 2 years ago for commercial real estate marketing purposes. But that was after I'd started to see success on LinkedIn. Now I'm at a point where I'm using LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. But I really seen the most activity off of LinkedIn and Instagram.
That's awesome. That is so cool. And I mean, do you it's hard. One thing is to get into the discipline of cold calling. I know, for example, when you're at Marcus Millichap, which is publicly traded, for those of you, it's amazing how many people don't know that you guys are publicly traded. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. Well, and I don't really focus on that aspect of it. Like the fact that we're publicly traded. I mean, I still feel like I'm an independent contractor. And so I'm like, I'm in my own hamster wheel, just kind of going and going. And yeah, the fact that Marcus and Millichap is a huge brand. The company just doubled down on our website. They created a brand new, fully comprehensive, searchable property website. It's beautiful, but it's also extremely user-friendly now, which I think is an awesome change. And yeah, we're publicly traded, so we have that feather in our cap.
So Marcus Millichap is well known for just like being super aggressive cold callers, having discipline. And you were sharing with me that part of your success, in addition to what you just shared with us, has been routines. Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah. So it would have been 4 or 5 years ago, I was really getting settled into the Manhattan office and the super long hours and the grind and just, being punched in the face by, deals that are closing, not close, whatever it was, just cold calling. And I decided I needed to mentally find center. And so I started transcendental meditation. And that kind of got me to where I really became focused on routines. And the routine that I have adopted years ago and continue to follow even with COVID was where I would wake up and meditate, and then I would get a workout in, and then I would start working. And so in Manhattan, which I'm not in Manhattan right now, but in Manhattan, when I first started this, I would wake up, meditate, and then I would walk to the office, a couple-mile walk, like intensely.
That's awesome.
Fire in my belly walk. And then I get to the office and I would shut all the people out that were, coming over to, water cooler, hang out. And I would just start working on my business. And cold calling was, the center at that point, really at the focal. And so like right now where I'm at with respect to that, I got a little lost with COVID because I didn't have a gym or anything. So I started buying kettlebells. And so my office is full of kettlebells.
You cut out there a sec.
And now I'm at the point where, yeah, sorry about that.
It's okay. You were mentioning, so you were mentioning now in your office, you got kettlebells.
Yeah. So I have the routine. I wake up, meditate, and essentially work out and then get to work. So that, we're currently building out our sales force. So like right now I'm doing a lot on like emails takes a lot longer to get to the cold calls. But that cold call component is very critical. I try to make 3 to 4 hours of daily cold calls during the week, which is absolutely linchpin. And it's not the win, it's not the success. It's just the fact that I'm doing it. It's the activity. And some days maybe nothing comes out of it, but sorry about that.
It's okay.
The more that I can, I have to, let me just check something.
Sure.
Okay. There we go. Okay,
No
we should be
worries.
good.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, so you were mentioning you're working on your Salesforce, and that it takes a little bit longer to get through.
To get started, but I try to keep my North Star as like the cold calls. So as I move through my day, it's always there. It's like, I've got to make, 20, 30, 40 calls minimum a day. My goal is 100, which is very difficult to get
It
to,
totally is,
but
especially if you're leaving voicemail. It's
mhm,
impossible. It's like 10 hours of work, 12 hours of work. Are you
yeah,
leaving voicemail every time?
no,
Is that what they
no, I
teach
don't.
you at Marcus? Like they go, don't leave voicemail?
No, I used to. A lot of people do. The problem that I found was it's hard to figure. It's hard to create value on a voicemail, and so it's like you're better off. Maybe if you're calling a person a couple times and you're just like, hey, this is why I'm calling you. If you don't want to talk to me, that's fine. But just like, but it's not really the center of my business. It's really getting the guy live on the phone and seeing if there's, something we can help with, from, financing to valuation, but really just kicking it off. It is not even really about dialing for dollars. It's where I'm at now. It's really
Mm.
about relationship building.
Yeah. So when you're saying you get your calls in, is that a mixture of cold calls, warm calls, follow-up calls, and like people that that have expressed interest that you're trying to convert into a potential listing?
Yeah. So, and the way, yeah. So I start with a list of, let's say it's drugstores, for instance, in front of me. And the way my brain works, I'll be calling those owners, and, somebody else will pop into my head, and I'm like, I have to call this guy real quick. And, if, like, for instance, I'm in that kind of in that cold calling zone, and there's a fire that needs to be put out on a deal that I usually do all the deal related calls earlier.
Hmm.
But I'm constantly working the business. I'm making sure that nothing gets left behind and that I'm not lagging on something that's super important. So the answer is I do all of the above during the entire course of that call period. So it's hard to say, how many calls I'm making that are cold, but it's probably 80% of the calls that I am, outbound.
That's awesome. And one thing that I really appreciate about you is how in tune with technology you are. Can you share a little bit about some of the cool things? Like you're one of the few people that are using technologies that some people don't even know about.
Yeah. Since social media became an early adoption for me, and really the centerpiece of how I was able to brand myself and get business, and sell listings, I was really wanting to find a way to create more efficiencies for myself without bringing on more staff. So I started using Salesforce and working with a company that was modifying it, customizing it. And I had tried to actually learn how to do that myself. It was just not, the cost benefit wasn't there for me.
Yeah, right.
So we recently, so it's like what I've seen over the last couple of years using Salesforce and adopting is dramatic revenue growth. And this year's a banner year for me. It'll be dramatically larger in terms of last year. And actually this year we adopted Pardot, which is a Salesforce sister company or component, and that's actually the side of the Salesforce where you can actually create landing pages. They give you a whole host of opportunities to share documentation and bring leads in directly to your database. And so my goal is to do more with less time. So like create more leads with less of my hours, because there's only one of me. And the way that I've seen Salesforce do that has been it's mind numbing. I mean, I was worried at first about these, like, these investments. Like Pardot is a, 10, 15, $20,000 annual subscription.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like that versus hiring a full-time marketing person was worth trying Pardot. And so I've only been using it for a few months, but I've seen dramatic boost in, I guess, my own efficiencies just from being able to be more on calls, less time sending OMs via email directly to people. And then also like creating funnels where I can have a hyperlink that I put on LinkedIn with the marketing piece, and I'm getting new leads that are pulling directly in, and it's not taking me any time to do that now.
Yeah.
Whereas before I was like, download this spreadsheet, upload them into this, this database. And it was like, I would spend 2 or 3 hours a week just doing that kind of not
Yeah.
necessary work, at least now. So,
Can you imagine,
um,
like you're probably like with the amount of money you make, you're probably like a $1,500, $2,000 an hour. You just like literally in doing that for 2 hours every day, like every week you were throwing away maybe
mhm.
$8,000, $10,000 worth of,
I
and you
know
could
it's
have
true.
paid somebody, way less than that, a few $100s a week to do this for you.
And it's true. And a little bit about me was I had actually, I was, um, so about 4 years ago, I had basically started my career over. I was on a team and I had dropped off of the team and started my own thing. And it was just me.
Hmm.
Um, and so that's why I was doing the drones myself. And I wasn't going to hire an assistant at first. I was kind of bullheaded about it because I wanted to see how I could max out technology. And, you know, it's been an interesting run. I mean, it's the I wouldn't do it any different, even though I could have done it a lot, a lot of things different, hired people. But I wanted to know the ins and outs of every aspect of the industry, what I'm doing. So like from marketing to closing a deal, I can do all aspects and facets. So I can teach the employees that I bring on now exactly what I want them to do versus them teaching me.
Hmm.
And so because I see a lot of my colleagues and peers who don't actually know how to send a marketing blast out,
Yeah.
or they're scared of, making a mistake. And it's like a little bit of it is you have to make those mistakes to learn. And so I just, I found a lot of good in that.
Yep, I'm the same way. So in Orange County, we do super discounted Matterport 3D tours and drones. That's part of the service for our premium subscribers,
Right.
so our premium listers at Digsy. And I remember the first few times, I would go out with our photography team to kind of see how this stuff worked, and then, I needed to see. They kind of showed me how they do the editing on the software and things like that. Also in the retouching. I don't do it all myself, but I get enough familiar with it so I understand what's potentially possible. And
Mm-hmm.
and having that not only helps you better understand your own business, but it
Mm-hmm.
also allows you to think more creatively when okay, I've got experience with drones. Well, what else can we do with the drone? Because you can set these drones to just go a circular path and do all the work for you, which is pretty
Right.
crazy what you can do with these things. But I completely get it, man. I'm cheering
Yeah.
for you on that end. Let's shift gears to you're one of the few brokers that I know that is really, really good at helping property owners reduce time on market significantly and maximize the dollar amount that they get for their properties. Can you tell us whatever you're open on sharing with our audience about how you go about doing that?
Yeah. So years ago, when I was in college, my dad and I had an eBay account. And so we were auctioning stuff off, and I learned, it's all about exposing the asset to the marketplace. And what I was seeing after joining Marcus and just in general in commercial real estate, a lot of commercial brokers don't really like to expose the asset. They are trying to find the buyer themselves, and they want to close both sides of the deal. And it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me because it didn't necessarily, that practice doesn't mesh necessarily with the seller's expectations and goals. And so the way that once I started off and doing my own thing, I just would put it on all third-party websites the same day that it activated in the Marcus platform, and I would blast it to brokers and principals, and that was something that I don't think was um, customary. And like it's definitely not. I mean, I still talk to brokers today who have pocket listings and they need help selling them, and so I always ask, like, why don't you take it to market? Why don't you have a marketing package? Why is it? And it's like a lot of times it's like, well, I can tell, I've sold these in the past like this, and so it's just what I do. And so I just continue to see what I want to be at the forefront of best practices. And so we spend a week to 2 weeks just doing the marketing package. Graphic designer researches, and the drone aerials are labeled. And so essentially what we're doing is we're putting our best foot forward with beautiful marketing, and as wide of an audience as we can, we expose it to. And so we're databasing people in the ICSC, catalogs. We're databasing developers. We're databasing private client owners who own net lease similar assets, and constantly just uploading those into our blast list. And that is essentially how we're cultivating that quicker time on market, and also generating multiple offers scenarios, and getting best pricing. It's not always super seamless. I mean, if you have a tough deal, but I feel like I don't leave anything on the table.
Yeah, that's awesome. So basically what you're doing is you're getting it out, ton of eyeballs, as quickly as possible in any way, shape, or form. You're blasting it out. Now, I hear a lot of people use, like, for example, RCM, for investments, and like what's sort of like your marketing stack right now? So, aside from Digsy, like, is it Crexy, LoopNet? Can you share with us a little bit?
So aside from Digsy, Crexy, LoopNet, CoStar, I have some kind of a membership. And then I really LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. To me, those are as important, if not more so, because paying for all these memberships isn't always conducive. There's not always people that are looking, like some of the third-party sites don't have a consistent fan base, consistent client base. And so I was really heavily focused in on like networking with as many people as possible on social media. It's free, and it's just one of those ways that you can max out and create a buyer from thin air that you never even knew existed.
Right.
So it's like, if you get an offer off of one of those social media sites, and then an offer from your email blast, or maybe two, and then I get one from the Marcus and Millichap platform, it's, you're starting to look at 3, 4, 5 offer scenario. And that's when really the seller's going to see the best results.
Do you have this is kind of like an interesting question, but I'm not sure if you've ever encountered this. Like, what do you have any deals that you've done, like, where you think, oh, this is so difficult, and you've actually gotten it sold?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, it's like early on, especially because I was just, I wanted to prove myself to the owner, the developers. I mean, I took difficult listings as a norm, aggressively priced deals. And the challenge of that is I think twofold. I mean, the failure in not being able to get the deal sold right off the cuff, it tests you. It tests your endurance. It tests, creativity. You have to, and then you have to dig deep to find how to sell this deal. Yeah. So it's like, but I find like commercial real estate tends to be that way. Like, every deal is different. So every deal you start digging into the due diligence or whatever, and you find something funky. And so it's like most deals, you have to change your pattern, change your technique. The tougher deals, you might have to go 3 or 4 times at your approach in order to get it done.
So agility and creativity. That's what you're telling me.
I mean, it really, truly. Yeah. And like, how many times can you get told no?
Yeah.
I mean, I have a deal right now that I think is a great deal for someone. It's got a vacancy piece. There's a single tenant. It's priced at a single tenant cap rate, but it has upside potential, and it's not for everyone. And so it's like that deal, I've been told no a lot more. And we've had deals that we just took to market and sold right away. And it sold, in a third of the time that's been on the market.
Tell us a little bit more about this asset. Where's it located? What the size range is? So like the audience, in case they're shopping for something like this, are they going to reach out to you?
Absolutely. So I'm marketing a Harbor Freight tools in Madisonville, Kentucky. Harbor Freight is an extremely strong tenant. They offer low price tools, category killer. The location is prime. I mean, it's a county seat. You have huge traffic counts along the corridor. We're directly along the main thoroughfare. I'd say we're at the heart of the corridor. We're priced at a 6.5 cap, which is a great cap rate in this market for a single tenant asset. But there's a vacancy of 8,000 feet. And so you have the opportunity to get a 10 plus cap rate out of the deal once that is leased up. And so again, it's not a single tenant asset. It's more like a little strip center deal, but there's a big pop on it. And so it's, again, we have a lot of activity, but that pricing disparity between where the buyers are and where where we make a deal is that's the challenge that we're faced with. Now, somebody's going to see double-digit returns if as soon as they fill that space, slap a loan on it. Price point is just under 2 million. I think we're at 1.9 million. But it's the kind of deal where, like Harbor Freight, for instance, they have 8 years on their lease. They've left, I think, one location in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, so when they go into a location, it's almost as though they're not leaving. They're there for life.
Sounds strong.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great opportunity, especially for an investor that says, "Hey, I want to buy this," and like it's somewhat like a value add with a strong tenant in there. You know what we should do? If you can send me the brochure after we get done with this, what I'll do is I'll link it on the post. So if you're looking at this on LinkedIn or Twitter, when you see this, you're going to see a link to the brochure where you can download. And if you have an aerial drone photography or videos, include those as well so that we can show them to the audience. So that way, if a broker's watching this or a principal's watching this, they can reach out to you. Well, hey, Jesse, this has been awesome, dude. I hope we can do it more often. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And for the record, what is the right way to say your last name? Because I always screw it up.
Limon, like Bacardi.
Awesome. That's what I thought.